Hello everyone and welcome back to the King of the Tomb Invitational. In the semifinal match, we're going to have a showdown between Team BroHammer, who's going to be playing the Empire in Bretonia, and they're going to be facing off against the Walking Haggard, which is actually the team I'm playing on with Professor Pone, and we're going to be playing the Beastmen and the Vampire Counts. So without further ado guys, let's get this show on the road. So as far as the army composition goes, like I said, we do have the Beastmen and the Vampires. So in this game, I wanted to go back to my basics, and one of my favorite 2v2 compositions is just to get Malagor the Dark Omen, just basically a Cygor generator, get a couple of Cygors, and use the very resilient Vampire Counts front line to, kind of handle the infantry fight, and using the Beastmen to handle the mobility, the skirmishing, and some of those other variables. So I really think that the Beastmen with Centaurs with great weapons, and even regular Centaurs here, they do have the bronze shields, are a very good skirmishing and counter-skirmishing faction. They have 95 speed, they're pretty durable. I guess they're not super durable, but again, with the shields, it gives them a little bit of sustainability, and they also have perfect vigor. So over the course of a very long battle, your Centaurs are going to continue to skirmish at pretty much, maximum efficiency, whereas a lot of other skirmishers can fall off. So I'm going to be handling the skirmishing. I do have my Centaurs here. I have, I think, 3 or 4 groups of Centaurs with throwing axes, just in case they went very heavy cav, like Grail Knights or Knights of the Realm or things like that. Centaurs are faster than them and can kite them out and also have very good AP. So I'm just handling the mobility, like I said. So my army's mostly just Centaurs. I have some Harpies and extra spears laying around, but aside from that, just mostly Centaurs and Cygors. So Professor Pone is going to be handling the heavy lifting in the front line. So he has a bunch of, I think he has Graveguard. Yeah, the Graveguard. He has Sternsman here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're somewhere around here. He does also have the Claw of Nagash. So a little bit risky, the Claw of Nagash against the Empire in Bretonia, if they brought a lot of like peasant archers or handgunners or things like that. But thankfully for us, they just brought a couple mounted yeomen, so they're really going to be having to fight against the Death Star of the Mortis Engine. As far as his leadership, he does have the Red Duke. So the Red Duke, a very, very powerful duelist, as you guys know. 2 Terror guys to help up in the air, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, Vampires handling the front line, and it's really nice. They're unbreakable. It really allows your Beastmen skirmishers to have a free range on the battlefield. You don't have to worry about your front line buckling. I definitely like this team composition quite a bit. Now for Jonton and Sakarma, Team BroHammer. They got Pistoliers. Looks like a combination of, I think the Empire's handling most of the frontline fighting. So Flagellants, Sigmar Sons, a couple Spearmen. So going very cheap in terms of their main infantry line. So we'll definitely have the advantage there. But where they have the advantage is mobility. Reichsguard, Pistoliers, and then also the Bretonians have Grail Knights. I think they have Knights of the Realm. So there's just going to be all kinds of mobility. They have mounted yeoman archers, more Pistoliers here. As far as leadership, they have King Louis, and it looks like the Toadbringer with the Midland Runefang. Lore of Light over here for the Empire, and for the Bretonians, they have Lore of Life with the Dwellers Below and Regrowth. So if they're able to get those vampires blobbed up, maybe they can get some good value. So guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now, you can see I'm just kind of getting that Cygor action. So the Cygors are going to be throwing in at the Greatswords, obviously some of the better targets. And Malagor actually did just summon another Cygor who emerged from the depths. I guess he was just chilling under the dirt right here and decided to come out and play. So the Cygors are going to force our opponents in. But, they definitely have the mobility advantage, like I said. So Professor Pone will be moving forward here with the Graveguard to engage the front line of the Empire in Bretonia. But they have a lot of mobility. So if they really want to, they can definitely come up and around the flank. And the Cygors, I probably should have had them back here behind the Vampire Counts, because I'm going to be forced to move a little bit here. So the boulders are going in. It looks like, were they throwing at the Pistoliers there? I'm not sure, but doing a ton of damage to the Greatswords already, down to 61 models. I do send some of my Ungor Spears with shields forward, and I made sure to bring shields for counter-skirmishing purposes, and they're just going to muck up some of these Empire troops that were looking to advance into my back line. In the meantime, you can see my throwing axes and great weapons and all these guys. I'm trying to get around and force an engagement here, but Jonton did a very good job with the spears here, so I can't really, force a fight. I just kind of probably have to fall back to the Vampire Counts. In the front line, the Vampires have begun to fight, so it looks like some Reichsguard did charge into the front line of those Graveguard, but the Graveguard, pretty durable folk. I don't think they have charge defense of any sort. But with a Mortis Engine here, they should be completely fine. And also, I've split up my forces, so I have a pretty big contingent over here on this side of the battlefield. You can see the Knights of the Realm get a good counter charge. I think they were actually hiding in the trees, and I didn't notice them, but I decided to take the engagement anyways, because I have Centaurs with great weapons, and, I also have some are those Professor Pones? Yeah, those are his Fellbats. For a second, I thought they were just, like mutated Harpies, but realizing there was an overwhelming force here, Knights of the Realm, King Louis, I decided to fall back, and I basically just lost one group of Hounds, so it's a bit of a wash. In the meantime, Professor Pone coming in with the Red Duke and the Terror guys, and he's going to be covering me in the air. And this Flying Goon Squad can probably definitely take out theirs, especially considering their Fellbat support and a couple other things like that. Over here in the mainline fight, the Claw of Nagash is going to be draining here, and it's going pretty well for the Vampire Counts, but this is a wild fight over here. So my Centaurs with throwing axes are pushing forward. I was able to catch a couple of Jonton's Pistoliers, so my Centaurs with great weapons as well as these Chaos Poison Warhounds get a really nice wrap. You can see the boulders coming in, just smashing those Flagellants right there. So this is a nice catch. We're going to be able to get a somewhat healthy group of Pistoliers off the battlefield, and it looks like they do just break off there. So a decent little catch for us, but we still are taking some casualties from some of these Spears and Flagellants and also this other group of Pistoliers, but it looks like we might actually get a 2-for-1 and get both of those Pistoliers off the battlefield. So this is definitely one of the epicenters here. You can see that Professor Pone's Red Duke, as well as these Fellbats, and Fellbats are such a good unit. I mean, they're able to muck up these Pegasus Knights who do have the Baroness Time Warp, but for the most part, we should have the advantage in the aerial fight. The Terror Guys have taken a little bit of work from King Louis and the Pegasus Knights, but a lot of the Pegasus Knights models are fighting kind of Fellbats, and also I fly in my Harpies. So that's another kind of set of 45 models they're going to have to deal with. They are falling relatively quick to those Pegasus Knights, but still very good. So the Bretonnians have a bunch of cav in reserve over here. We do have some spears and also my Centaurs with throwing axes, so I had to kind of collapse in my Cygors because the Empire did kind of overwhelm this flank. The Empire and Bretonnia obviously teamed up, whereas most of our forces were kind of allocated here in the middle. So just continuing to throw boulders in at some of those mounted yeomen, just trying to get rid of their ranged tools so I could just sit next to the Mortis engine and hang out. But right here, Professor Pone is able to get the Red Duke and company to take out Boris, so there was actually King Lewin and Boris here. And the Vampire counts with the help of those Fellbats and Harpies, and also I did bring in some of my throwing axes below. You can see I'm throwing up there at the air and kind of poking down King Lewin. We're just doing everything we can to get that engagement. So the Bretonnians do charge in, very well played by Sakarma there, and he gets a great, just fat lance right there on those very squishy Centaurs. So he's going to get a ton of kills here and probably be able to rout one of them off the battlefield. You can see a lot of Bretonnian cav coming in, so I reacted a little bit late. I think my attention was elsewhere on the battlefield. And yeah, you can see in the back he does have the Royal Altar of Gryphites who've gotten a pretty good surround. So I get the great weapons in with these Centaurs, just trying to get him down. My Summon Cygor is definitely going to fall here. It has about 700 HP, and the anti-large cav are doing a pretty good job on him there. In the meantime, the Pistoliers are just kind of circling around looking for an opportunity. I do have my Centaurs with throwing axes who do have 5 more movement speed. You can see they're chasing, and if I can get these Pistoliers, I think they have 360 though. So if John Ton is, it looks like he is going to be retreating there. He's going to be picking off a ton of my cav. I do have some spears. I should be able to help screen those guys out, but very, very good stuff from the Pistoliers. So the bounce power is definitely in our favor. We were able to take out a lot of the Empire and Bretonnian leadership. The center fight's going really well. The Vampire counts are pretty much dominated in every respect. You can see the Claw of Nagash is just kind of pushing forward a bunch of fleeing Bretonnians and Empire troops. And there is a little bit of a contingent of Empire and Bretonnian forces over here, some men-at-arms and things like that, but this is a scary Vampire Death Star. It's in very good health. We have the 2 Cygors who I'm basically just kind of rolling with them. At this point we're like, all right, they have a ton of mobility. They still have some cav roaming around the battlefield, but let's try and keep it high and tight. Keep the Vampire counts protecting these guys as we just kind of bomb away on the remainder of their troops. Man, that was a straight up Hail Mary right there. Where was that going? Definitely, probably going after those Knights of the Realm over there. So the bounce power, like I said, in our favor. Bretonnians still do have a pretty big force though. The Grail Knights over here, more Grail Knights. So it's basically just, they have lost a lot of skirmishers and infantry, but their leadership is in pretty good shape, I would say. The Cygor is another one that I had summoned. So Malagor actually got hunted down by this Bretonnian force, and in the last second I just summoned a Cygor. I was like, oh well, let's give him something to fight here, at least get some value. So the Cygor does fall. Bounce power is still pretty much in our favor despite that, and you can see that the Cygors are going to be throwing in at the Knights right here, getting a nice boulder throw right into the front. Looks like it takes out a couple Knights. And the Royal Pegasus Knights are going to be on the hunt, probably going after the Red Duke, but honestly I don't think they have too many great targets left. So at this point, it's just kind of a little bit of a jockeying for position. You can see the Cygors are actually running from all these Knights right here. So Professor Pone does summon some zombies in front of them and breaks their charge. So very, very smooth play right there with the Red Duke. And that gives us time to reform our ranks, get our Grave Guard, get these Mortis engines online, because a lot of the bounce power probably isn't our monstrous units. So if they were able to get a clean pick right there with those Grail Knights on top of our Cygors, that could have been a little bit tough. Granted, I still don't know if they have the tools to deal with the Mortis engine, considering that they did lose all their mounted yeomen and their other range tools. Although it looks like there are some mounted yeomen here, so I guess for some reason I thought they got wiped out, but they are shaken because their lord's dead. The Red Duke flies overhead, and at this point the Cygors are basically just sitting in there and just throwing boulders at the Knights as they go in circles here, you can see. And Professor Pone is just going to be defending me with his Grave Guard and some of these other tools. Mounted yeomen do get in position here, so I'm just kind of continuing to waddle away, and you can see he's going to be using the Mortis engine to screen them out. And the screen coming down from the Terror Guys, obviously it does pretty well against large entity units, but the Grail Knights prepare for their final last stand here. The Royal Altar of Gryphites still in pretty good shape despite some rough early fights, but I even have some Centaurs with throwing axes, so we're not completely out of tools, but what you guys see here for me is all I have. Just these throwing axes and these 2 Cygors. Professor Pone is definitely going to need to carry the fight from here. So the Grave Guard are going to be spreading out into a wall formation, trying to get in front of those Knights of the Realm. So realizing they're coming in here, I get some throwing axe play, and it looks like the Knights they don't really take any casualties. I don't have too many models left, so I just fall back into the Mortis engine, realizing like we need to force them to come into this fight, because with the Mortis engine there, These guys obviously have, yeah, the Ground Knights have physical resist. But here comes the charge of the Rohirrim. They're going to get in there and go after the Cygor. So one Cygor does kind of get caught up here. And the other Ground Knights, I think, get caught up amongst the Graveguard. And it looks like there's going to be a zombie summon going down for Professor Pone. And from there, the Red Duke should be able to jump in. The Mortis Engine's training them. And this is definitely going to be a fight that favors the Walking Haggard. So that's it for game one, guys. You can see the Dwellers below coming in from Sakarma. Definitely a cool play there, doing quite a bit of damage. But that's it. That's game one. So let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown. And again, guys, this is a best of 3. The finals will be a best of 5. And that's going to be taking place. Actually, this video will probably be going up right before the finals. I'm a little bit behind. I've had a lot of stuff going on. So the finals for the tournament, and you guys don't know who's winning yet, is going to be tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure to tune in if you guys want to see that hot action. So yeah, it was definitely a fun game. Cygors did their job. We had some spooky, scary vampire count action. Obviously, they really held it down in the front line. Keeping that Mortis Engine alive by taking out the Pistoliers and the other ranged options was definitely very essential. Cygors did good, and it was definitely quite a bit of fun. But really, I think the big kind of factor in that game was the fact that we were able to take out their Air Force. Professor Pone's, goon squad in the air, plus the Fellbats and the Harpies and the Throwing Axe support on the ground was really able to chip down Boris, and as well as King Lewin, which I think was pretty huge. So, very well played to John Ton, Professor Pone, and Sakarma. And guys, we're going to jump right over to Game 2 in this semifinal match in the King of the Tomb Invitational. See you guys soon. Alright guys, so now we're back with Game 2 in this best of 3 series between the Walking Haggard, who's going to be playing the Wood Elves and Vampire Counts, against Team BroHammer, who's going to be playing the High Elves and the Vampire Counts. So a couple of you guys in the comment section of the last video were actually asking about how the armies are picked for this tournament. So the way that it works is that it's a complete blind pick. So before a team goes into the match, they have to send the moderator, they actually have to send them all of their army compositions. So for example, they have to say in Game 1, we're going to be playing the Vampire Counts and the High Elves. In Game 2, we're playing Beastmen. And then from there, they actually have to play each of those respective faction choices for each of the battles they have there. So that's how it works. So in this match, myself and Professor Pone, we have the Wood Elves and the Vampire Counts, which is definitely going to be a little bit tricky because I went with a very Waywatcher heavy build. So Waywatchers are definitely very solid at taking out heroes and large targets and things like that, but it's a little bit tricky against High Elf missiles. They have 190 range, and Lothar and Seaguard have silver shields and 165 range, so they can weather your fire. They can kind of screen out your Waywatchers if they're really on point. And also the Vampire Counts Fellbats are going to be a little bit tricky. But really looking forward to this match. In the front line, we decided to pad our numbers a little bit. So Professor Pone is again going to be handling the front line. He has Graveguard, he has a Mortis Engine. He does also have the Red Duke and Double Terrorgeist to really, try and contest the skies. But, it's gonna be tough because we do have the High Elves. So the High Elves have a Princess on a Moon Dragon. Or that's not a Walmart Dragon. No, that's a Star Dragon. So definitely going to be pretty strong. And they also have a High Mage with Apotheosis, Tempest. So if we get into really a really pitched air fight here, it's going to be tricky with that Tempest. But I would say as far as the ground forces go, we do have a slight advantage. So in the front line, Professor Pone has his Graveguard. But knowing that the Vampire Counts and the High Elves both struggle against large armored targets, we're like, hey, you know what? Let's throw in a couple Treekin and see what happens. Or Treemen. So we have 2 of these Treemen here who are obviously very powerful, 100 armor, they have physical resist. So they're going to be pretty tough for these guys to take down. And, if the other forces go down, the Treemen will probably be the last ones to fall there. The rest of my army consists of some Waywatchers in the back, so I have 3 of those, some Azrai Spears, 2 groups of Wild Riders here, and then a Glade Lord with the Prey of Anathrama. Team BroHammer, Vampire Counts, we don't have much time before the fighting starts. Vampire Counts front line, so very similar to the last game that you saw as well as our composition. They also have some white lines in the secondary line, a firing line of Lothar and Seaguard, which are really just tearing up this Mortis Engine, Bolt Thrower, and a pretty heavy Air Force. So a Star Dragon plus a Phoenix here. So it's going to be a hog wild game. So without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now we're advancing in the front line. We decided to send the Ancient Treemen in first to take the brunt of the damage, obviously being very tanky. So they get their tentacles or whips or brutes out, and they're doing some work against these Graveguard for sure, absorbing some of that fire. And the Mortis Engine is still taking a lot of damage, so this could be a very tough early loss for us. In the meantime, it looks like we get a good engagement. So Professor Pone gets in here with the Red Duke, and he gets a lot of burst damage on the enemy Red Duke. But here is where the tide could potentially turn. You see a big Tempest coming down. So Tempest does AoE damage, and on top of that, it kind of pins you in place. So, I think I actually got a Prey of Anathrama on the Princess because I knew the Star Dragon was coming in to hit his troops. And my Waywatchers on the low ground are going to be turning and shooting up here, but my positioning was a little bit awkward. What I wanted to do was chip away at the side of his formation so his archers couldn't focus me as easily, but some of the Vampire Count stuff does get through. Some of these Graveguard send my Wild Riders to intercept, but this is a really important aspect of the battle here. So the enemy Red Duke is able to get away. He pulls back. Our Red Duke is still fighting in the pits here, and it's kind of hard to tell between the Vampire Count stuff, what belongs to who, but yeah, is that actually our Red Duke over here that's fleeing the scene? Not 100% sure, but the Scroll of Leeching does go off. No, that's actually theirs because it gets Apotheosis. So thank you for answering that question, Johnson. But regardless, the air fight is definitely going pretty much in our opponent's favor. The Star Dragon, plus, I mean, they just simply have us outnumbered. And the Way Watchers are providing some overwatch from the low ground. And also you can see I'm trying to snipe out the Red Duke using the Arrows of Kurnus and my Way Watchers. But honestly, we just don't have enough stopping power. And they have, Fellbats. And the thing is their Lothar and Seaguard are just kind of sitting and firing with impunity. We don't have a lot of backline pressure since we went with more of an anti-elite type army. Because bringing the Way Watchers obviously is kind of designed for taking out Terrorgeists and Moondragons and well, any sort of dragon or monster type unit like that. But they had a very wide army on the ground. They had a bunch of the Lothar and Seaguard. They had some of those, what are those guys called? The White Lions. But the air fight is still going on. I mean, our Terrorgeists are holding on to dear life here. You can see the enemy Red Duke, or is that actually our Red Duke? That is ours. Is getting pretty low though. He's been fighting tooth and nail. He does get the Tempest cast, and it looks like this is going to be the turning point for the battle. So we lose a Terrorgeist. Our Red Duke is disintegrating and crumbling. He just couldn't take the Wrath of the Storm. But I did push my Ancient Treemen through. So the Ancient Treemen are now in the back line. They're laying some good whips down on these Lothar and Seaguard, who do have anti-large, but the Treeman with its 100 armor, and I think it has a pretty substantial ward save too. Let's go check. 20%. So he's going to be able to stand there and tank those guys for some time. And Professor Pone, I think, actually got some zombies back here as well. And guys, this is the fight of fights to determine the fate of the game. We have two groups of Fellbats fighting. It looks like one of them did crumble there, so I guess that wasn't... I was hoping to just get some ridiculous meme fight over here, but that did not last long. So in the back, the Way Watchers are, they were doing some decent Overwatch, but ultimately the Tempest and just their superior numbers in the air, the double Terrorgeist, the Phoenix, plus the Star Dragon against basically our double Terrorgeist and, just the Red Duke, was able to overwhelm us. So from here, the Way Watchers are kind of in a fleeing situation. So I'm having to run. I'm trying to snipe out this very injured Terrorgeist right here, getting a little bit of damage, but honestly, there's just far too much pressure. I do get the Prey of Anathram on the Princess, just trying to mitigate the damage coming in, and you know that when you're having to use Prey of Anathema like defensively non-stop like that, and honestly, this isn't even the best Prey of Anathema. It's not really doing a whole lot. It's looking pretty grim. So the bounce of power definitely in the favor of Team BroHammer. I've just been using these Wild Riders to cycle charge these Graveguard, and I've been getting pretty decent results. You can see these ones are crumbling here on the low ground. We're able to get some okay engagements and slow down these Graveguard. But ultimately, our forces are looking very tattered. Our Mortis Engine in the front is kind of holding on for dear life. The Lothar and Seaguard have reformed ranks. My Ancient Treemen have been trying. I mean, they're doing pretty good. Not a ton of kills, but, applying a decent pressure on the front line and not taking a lot of damage. But, with the back line and a lot of our army being invested in Way Watchers and things like that, it's just, it's probably too little too late. So you can see here, they're basically just getting hunted down by the angry fire pigeon, as well as the Princess here. So definitely some very, very good stuff. And, we were like picking our armies, and we didn't even think about the Tempest. So they outplayed and outsmarted. I'm trying to remember what that meme came from, but yeah, it was a ways back. I think it came from League of Legends, but yeah, they bringing that Tempest definitely really punished our Air Force, which is pretty brutal. And in hindsight, we probably should have played a little bit more defensively, like pulled back, the Terrorgeist and the Red Duke, and forced them to overextend into our territory, where we could have, screened out, had they even got a Tempest, we would have at least had pretty good Overwatch, or what's it called, they would have had to take a couple volleys from the Way Watchers, so definitely some misplays there, but honestly, just Jonton and Sakarma just played really well and picked really well this game. It was just super solid. So the Treemen right here just continuing to lay a smackdown into these spears, but that one theory was at least correct, that the Ancient Treemen would be decent, they would last a long time, because neither the High Elves or the Vampire Counts have the best anti-large options. And they did okay. I was proud of those guys, but unfortunately they're just going to waddle off into the Shadow Realm right now, and the rest of the battle is just some kiting and fighting, maybe trying to pull off a miracle, but really in retrospect there was no chance. There's just this big angry dragon flying about, and that is going to be all she wrote. So guys, we are going to Game 3. That is going to be it. Very well played to our opponents there, Jonton and Sakarma of Total BroHammer. Let's take a look at the breakdown. So the Way Watchers just got shut down. Our Air Force got shut down. There was just so many variables that just went south. But yeah, ultimately, that was pretty tough. The High Elves, I think, do pretty well against the Wood Elves. So ultimately, it was tricky. But we probably should have gone wider too. Like, I think had we brought a bunch of Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts and maybe played a more traditional style army, maybe it would have been better. But I don't know. It was pretty tough. They had some solid answers for us. So without further ado, guys, we are going to jump over to Game 3 in the series and see who's going to be going on to the finals. And remember, the finals will be tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you guys are free and you're bored and you want to hang out, and the finals are going to be a best of 5, so it's going to be hog wild for sure. So all right, guys, we're going over to Game 3. See you guys there. All right, guys, and now we're back with the third and final game in this best of three series between the Walking Haggard, who's going to be playing double Lizardmen. So Professor Pone and I are going to be whipping out Jabba the Hutt on Zlock right here. He's ready to party for sure. And we also got Croc-Gar, so we got the whole dinosaur gang. Definitely going to be a fun time. And we're going to be facing off again against Jonton and Sakarma of Total BroHammer. We're playing the Warriors of Chaos and the Greenskins. So definitely going to be a very brawly match. So as far as our army composition goes, we decided to get a little bit wild. So we decided to go triple Bastillodon with the solar engines. So we have 3 of those, which I guess are pretty good against like greenskins and infantry and against heavy infantry from the Warriors of Chaos. But unfortunately, there was a bit of a line of sight blocker here, which was a little bit tricky. So we have to waddle forward out of the gates, which isn't ideal. We do also have a couple of chameleon skinks protecting those guys. 1 skink cohort up here, but you can see that Sakarma getting a little bit tricky in the forest. Does have some forest goblin spider riders, which are a unit that I really like. They're very efficient at taking out chameleons. On top of that, I have a Heavens Caster. Professor Pone has 2 skink chiefs here, ready to go hunting for some Shaggets. But aside from the triple Bastillodon, the rest of our army is a little bit, I'd say a little bit narrow. We have some Saurus Warriors, we have an Ancient Stegodon, some Saurus in the backline and auxiliary, Jabba, Saurus Scarvet here to battle Shaggis and things like that, and that is pretty much it. And so for our opponent's army, a very, very wide army. So a combination. So rather than having like 2 armies with different, respective purposes, they have a pretty combined arms type force. So they have like Orc Biggins, they have Chaos Warriors, they have Black Orcs. So their front line is definitely, I really like their formation. And if they're able to march forward in that way, that's going to be pretty cool. Some Goblins in the front line, just in case they have Chameleons. And they'll do a pretty good job at taking the brunt of the damage. In the secondary line, they have the Rusty Errors. They have a whole Goblin Firing Squad. They have a bunch of them. I think they have like 4 or 5. They have some Nasty Skulkers in the back, some Marauder Horsemen throwing axes to take out big dinosaurs. They also have Morgrubs and the Death's Creepers, so they have a lot of good answers for the big dinosaurs, and I really, really like the army composition. So we're going to see if the Laser Lizards are up to the task. Can these dinos, these laser boys, roast some of these green boys? We will find out in the next episode. So we do discover them over in the forest. The chameleons are able to kind of force them out. And you can see we're getting some pot shots into the goblins, so they were just on fire at will probably in the beginning. So those poor gobos are going to have to eat those blasts. But it's better than having their buddies have to deal with that. So we are able to fend off those forest goblin spider riders, those little trolls. In the meantime, Professor Pone's skinks are going to be lurking in the shadows because we didn't see the Greenskin Lord, so we were like, where is he? And I did get a wind blast on this Black Orcs, but it did not do a lot of damage. Kolek taking some direct hits there from the Laser Lizard, but the Laser Dinos actually don't have the best armor piercing value, so something like Kolek with 100 armor, and that's something I didn't realize till I was playing on ladder a couple days ago, where I was like, they do not do a whole lot of damage against like, heavily armored elites, but Kolek taking those blows like a champ. And the dinos are still shooting, not having done a ton of damage, but here they go, shooting at the Black Orcs, which is definitely going to be good. And it looks like Kolek's got the moves. He is putting some heavy moves on these laser dinos. And in the meantime, these skink cohorts with the javelins are scooting up. And Croc-Gar and his buddy here, the Saurus Scar veteran, are going to be kind of roaming around the jungle looking for opportunities to strike. And now we're just shooting in towards the Black Orcs, and you can see it's definitely starting to pay some dividends. So these Black Orcs taking a lot of damage. And we're just kind of forming ranks right here. And we do have a decent little choke. They have a very wide army, so if we can fight the battle in this area, I think it would be pretty good for us. So Croc-Gar and this Dragon Ogre Shaggoth are going to be running over into the forest. The regular Dragon Ogres are taking some blasts from those laser dinos who are continuing to tee off there, and our skinks are going to cover our retreat. So the laser dinos obviously are going to have to retreat here in a moment, and the little skinklings are going to be shooting in there and covering them pretty good. And yeah, the laser dino actually gets I don't think he was shooting at the Rusty Errors, but he gets a pretty good little shot into those guys, which is nice. And Wind Blast coming down to those Chaos Warriors, and I don't know if it got like nerfed, because I actually overcasted that, and it didn't seem to do a whole lot against armored units, even though when you normally do overcast it, or used to. Or perhaps I was just getting like bad cones of fire, I'm not sure, but it didn't seem terribly effective. So anyways, the Bastillodons are falling back, our secondary forces are going to be, they're going to be positioning back here, and they'll start firing again in just a moment. And the rest of our forces will be advancing here. But yeah, that is a lot of stuff. Black Orcs will definitely beat Saurus Warriors, and Chaos Warriors, I think Chaos Warriors do win that engagement because of their 100 armor. I'm not sure. It might be a pretty close fight because Saurus Warriors do have very solid leadership. So Croc-Gar and his buddy are going to be coming in here. The Gobos obviously, wanting to take some of our fire, which they do. It's okay. We have plenty of ammunition still. But we're able to tear out them real quick, which is going to be nice because we don't want them to be taking the brunt of our Saurus Warrior charges and things like that. And a friendly fire shot, Professor Pone trying to backstab me here with these Bastillodons, blast my Saurus Scar veteran right in the face. So Gary is just misbehaving this game. Over here on the far side, you can see the Forest Goblin Spider Riders from Sakarma are going to be swinging around. Definitely good stuff, applying pressure to our back line. And the Laser Dinos are, back in business. They're shooting a little bit high, but, they're still getting some pressure in there. Our Ancient Stegodon is also going to be shooting some of his Ballista type attacks in here. And let's see if that one hits. It looks like they're shooting pretty inaccurately there. You guys see those shots? Those are not, that is not good. So there's going to be some Foul Witchcraft going down on Krokgar right here. It looks like there's going to be a Final Transmutation. So they do have they have a Metal Caster. Okay, so that's a pretty good little cast, and definitely was not expecting, nor did I notice that. So it did some really good damage. I do respond with the Rev Crystal, so it's going to mitigate a lot of that kind of pressure there. And in the meantime, the frontline engagement is underway. So the Saurus Warriors and the Chaos Warriors are going to be colliding in the front. And the Stegodon, of course, is going to be jumping in there. The Black Orcs have engaged against Saurus on the far side, which is going to be really bad for those Saurus Warriors. Oh, those are actually big ones, so maybe it's a better engagement. Also, the Ancient Stegodon's getting in there, and a Banishment going down from Jabba. So Jabba trying to drop a Banishment as they advance here. It does catch up a lot of those Black Orcs, and it's probably going to massacre those Goblins as well. So definitely not a bad engagement. So the Stegodon, we're able to rout those guys. So this side of the battlefield is going pretty good for the Dinos. But over here, it's a little bit of a different story. So Krokgar, and we did actually engage them in the forest there, I think, or we're about to. So I'm trying to see where my Saurus Scar Veteran is. Yeah, he's right here. So we decided to engage right here, but we accidentally overextend a little bit. And something that you don't really expect is Dragon Ogres having that really solid mass. So these Dragon Ogres, these smaller ones is what I meant, they're able to get like a surround on the back. So my Saurus Scar Veteran is 100% trapped right now. So very, very good play by Jonton there. So Jabba the Hutt comes in, but he's immediately going to pull back. So we take a lot of damage. Night Goblin Warboss comes in, and guys, he had a Tormentor Sword. So another thing that, we really weren't expecting here. So he comes in with the Tormentor Sword, and a lot of our forces get pinned there. So a very, very bad situation. The Saurus Scar Veteran has Itchy Nuisance to lower his melee attack, and we can't really fight back here. And also they have the infantry advantage, they have Biggins, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of our Saurus are honestly just getting buckled by these Black Orcs and just the pressure they're applying. So, part of me was like expecting like, hey, we're going to have some infantry support when you push in here, but we really didn't. It was just heavily favoring their composition here. The Black Orcs and, the Biggins and all these boys are just chipping away at our big dinos. The Saurus Scarvet is definitely going to be going down here with the, he has Cold Blood, which lowers his melee attack, but it's kind of just a last-ditch effort to save him. But he's actually going to break, which is tough. So we do still have our laser dinos. The battlefield over here is going okay. A lot of the Chaos Warriors and other troops are broken, but the elite fight has just gone so south. Jabba the Hutt has just been taking a beating. Krokgar also took a lot of damage. He's having to pull back. So Jabba's going to retreat here. But I really liked seeing Jonton and Takarma use that Night Goblin Warboss in this matchup, because if I were playing Greenskins, I was like, oh, let's get Wurzok. But that Tormentor Sword was so good. He was able to pin down all of our big dinosaurs, so we couldn't really retreat. And the Shaggoths and the Dragon Ogres were able to just do massive damage. So that was just a beautiful play by our opponents there. So in the meantime, we're going to be retreating. You can see our laser dinos are just kind of shooting into the blob here, working their little hearts out, and actually getting their full ammo loads, their full payloads, 67, 46, and 59. I can't help but think they were just so inaccurate this game that, like, you guys saw in the initial engagements, they were just shooting high. I feel like we really needed to get that value then. But regardless, we're able to get a good second wave here. You can see that Krokgar back here is able to fight. Kolek and Jabba are kind of are having a bit of a duel, but this isn't a bad situation. We have Saurus, we have some Skinks here, we have our Skink Chiefs, we have our Heavencaster and Overwatch. Looks like Lord of the Storm going down from Kolek on some of those Saurus right here, but this isn't bad. Kolek's starting to take a bit of damage, and this is the moment that we could potentially come back. You can see that the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth right here is also taking damage. We have some Chameleons and Overwatch just shooting at Kolek. So this is the moment that the Lizard people can come back and move forward to the finals. So right here you can see Jabba the Hutt just fighting tooth and nail. Itchy Nuisance is dropped on him from the Little Wah. Rev Crystal is going to be keeping him alive, but he does break, -22. So Kolek's able to break him. Krokgar doing a very good job against his Dragon Ogre, but they also have the Wah here. So the Night Goblin Warboss is going to be giving the Wah to the Shaggoths, putting their melee attack up to 104 actually, which is going to be giving them a massive advantage in this duel. So definitely some very, very cool synergies there. The frontline fight, however, you can see our Bastillodons are getting in there and trying to, hold things up. Our Ancient Stegodon is being dragged down by the Goblin Arrows. They also do have some Halberds and Auxiliary, the Rusty Arrows, and a pretty decent little Goblin Firing Squad. Balance of power is still even, so the game's definitely still up in the air. Krokgar's having to retreat from the Night Goblin Warboss. Definitely, an embarrassment to other Lizards. Looks like he drops a tail whip there, but the Goblins have a pretty good little hunting squad, and I think the Night Goblin Warboss does poison. He does, so he's able to poison Krokgar and keep him under wraps. And Mazdamundi is having to run from some of these hounds. So at this point, I was like, we need to save Mazdamundi. Krokgar, he's pretty much he gets Gorkle Fix It. He gets slowed. He gets dragged down by the Dragon Ogres, and all the work going on here. So I try and get my Heavens Caster over there to save him, but it looks like Krokgar is going to fall. So the little Night Goblin Warboss that could just the hero of this game. Honestly, such MVP plays from that guy. Is able to do a pretty good job there. So Jabba the Hutt does rally though. So Professor Pone and I were like, there's still hope. There's still hope here. So our Saurus Warriors are kind of coming in to clean up here, and we have a little decent pocket here. We have a lot of Saurus fighting. We have some big dinos. Our Stegodon in the back line is doing pretty well. 107 kills, and he's just kind of ramshackling the Goblins. trying to shut down the rusty arrows here, but he is wavering and most likely will fall here in just a moment. So the balance of power, guys, is slipping away from us. Jabba the Hutt coming back in. He does pop the shield of the cold ones. Old ones, whatever. He's cracking open a cold one. And the goblins are on the hunt. And Jabba the Hutt's locked. Let's see how fast it is. So it has 50 speed compared to, oh yeah, it's much slower than those guys. So realizing that Jabba was probably our last hope, I decided to pull my chameleons over here, and they're just going to be screening and just shooting off those guys and poisoning them, but the Chag is going to come in. No problem, and just finish him off. So I think that's going to be pretty much all she wrote for the dinos, guys. We do have some Bastiladons still fighting and other things like that, but that's it, guys. Team BroHammer is going to be going to the finals at 6 p.m. tonight. Make sure to tune in. It is going to be a glorious showdown. So Professor Pone and I, we gave it our best, and the Walking Haggard goes out swinging with the lizards, and man, that was just such a fun series. Ultimately, I think we got really, our positioning was a little bit greedy there at the end. We probably should have just like stayed back in the open field and forced them to march further against our Bastiladons with the solar engines, and also the solar engines were a little bit suboptimal in terms of their targeting. I just felt like there was a bit of a terrain tilt that they weren't really getting the best shots. But I think the biggest factor that really cost us the game was that initial engagement where we overextended with the Sora Scarvet, Krokar, and Jabba, and we just took lethal damage on those guys. I wasn't expecting the Tormentor Sword. I don't think I even acknowledged the Night Goblin War Boss until that happened, and it was really, really tough when it did. So very well played by Johnson and Sakarma. It was definitely pretty good stuff. In retrospect, though, if we had to redo the army compositions, I mean, we were obviously having a little bit of fun with the solar engines. We probably wouldn't do that. Maybe I think getting some more Temple Guard and a couple more heavy dinosaurs, maybe. You could even mix in some Kroxigors here. I feel like they'd be pretty good. But I think that, it was definitely a bold move, and they still got a lot of kills, though, in their defense. I mean, but I think a lot of those kills were probably in melee at the end. But yeah, those guys were beasts, and Professor Pona had some great banishments, just all kinds of madness. But Johnson and Sakarma, their Focus Fire and their Tormentor Sword Trap and some of those other plays were just masterful. So looking forward to seeing these guys in the finals. So the finals is going to be Team BroHammer facing off against Ola Skinks. So it's going to be Johnson and Sakarma. Make sure to check out their YouTube channel. It is Total BroHammer, and they actually do the channel together. So they take turns casting the games. Definitely a cool system. And they're going to be facing off against Dov Plays and Lore Master of Sotek. So it's going to be a good one. The finals will indeed be a best of 5. The teams have sent me their army selections, and we are ready to party. So thanks again for watching, guys, and we will see you all tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.